In this video essay, I will explore how funding alterations impact art therapy practice. I would like to begin with political aspects and current factors. It has always been a usual practice for governments and nobles throughout history to commission public art to commemorate a special event or demonstrate power and wealth. Gradually, the perception of art and the way people look at it has changed. Today, art is available to the general public and is seen more as means of self-expression, even a way to communicate and link to the rest of the world. It allows people to share opinions creatively on any topic. However, when it comes to cuts, the views of the government and the public differs.
Already faced budget cuts, and now in a letter, the Arts Council has asked each of them to consider how they might apply up to a 10% cut in their current grant from the Council and assess the impact this will have on programmes, staffing and audiences.
The arts are a very easy thing to cut at a time of austerity. They're also the wrong thing to cut, because at a time when local government's future is bound up with its ability to make its places grow, the arts are a critical part of creating places people want to live, places people invest.
The government's policy paper, Arts and Culture, outlines the awareness of funding issue, presents a plan of actions. It encourages organizations to seek for funding from other sources, and that idea is supported by Peter Bazaghet, former chairman of Art Council. It is worth noting an informative article written by Joe Hart, a senior editor of Public Art Review, researching multiple ways of gaining funds, encouraging creative thinking. He emphasizes the importance of raising broader consciousness around funding, offers tips and brings to people's mind alternative sources such as crowdfunding, and presents real-life examples. MPO states that just under £1 billion will be distributed among 663 organizations, but the independent article disputes that it can't be sold with £1 billion worth of funding, criticizing further the effectiveness and timing of the funding. It points out that more than a fifth of children referral has been rejected by camps. It is widely discussed how funding alterations affect NHS Trust, and the article published by BBC News shows that in total numbers bear a slight imbalance. Anne Longfield, the Children's Commissioner for England, shared her concerns with The Guardian, criticising the government funding cut policy that does not save any money. Practicing art therapist David Edwards stated further limited funds affect the quality of support offered to the public. So how to help people before it's too late? Which leads me to the second question, why fund an early intervention? Anne Longfield has highlighted the early intervention that teaches to manage a range of mental issues. Many art therapists, like respected author Kathy Malchiodi, discusses early intervention, which is an ideal therapeutic moment for traumatized children. I have interviewed Melissa King, art psychotherapist, and asked her opinion about it.
So I think early intervention is really, really important, and I think that the earlier the better. So I think that I'm currently trying to get funding for doing work with pregnant mums that are struggling, that are basically unprepared, that are worried, that are maybe the midwife has said there's concerns about the worrying about whether they'll manage as a parent. So I think that is early intervention, as in the young person hasn't even been born yet. So the mum's prepared for all the possibilities that can happen when they have a child. And also, as far as early intervention is concerned, a lot of the work I do focuses on that. And I believe that if a young person is struggling, then the earlier you work with them, the better, because that enables them to have, if they have a positive experience of therapy, that enables them to think, well, if in the future, when I'm maybe older and I might suffer from anxiety, if they've had a positive experience with the therapeutic process, then they can think to themselves, oh, I might try art therapy again, or I might try talking to a counsellor, or talking to a psychotherapist, or talking to a drama therapist. So that's happened a lot within my role. I've worked with young people that have had art therapy in primary school, and then they've gone to high school, and then they've struggled, and then a teacher has said to them, what do you think might be able to help you? And they said, art therapy.
The author of the Breathing paper 2016, Alex Bate, argues the validity and usefulness of early intervention. A Department of Education recognizes the importance of it. However, to receive funding, it has to be evidence-based practice to support the application. It is not an easy task to evaluate the effectiveness economically. MP Graham Allen, in his report Early Intervention Next Step, and Early Intervention, Smart Investment, Massive Savings 2011 analyzed similar practices in Europe and North America. He suggested that this policy must have a foundation. He disputed the budget, saying that the funding given to support late intervention should be changed to fund early intervention. He argued further, stating that intervention happens too late and that the delay increases the cost for treatment later in life. Catherine Broch from a charity organization Place to Be said that public and political understanding of young people's mental health is growing. The Prime Minister herself emphasized recently that mental illness too often starts in childhood and that, when left untreated, can blight lives. The Welsh Government stands up for open dialogue with people to gain long-term health benefits through creative therapeutic engagements, and puts forward the view that it continues to improve the healthcare sector by putting the right investment in arts that many benefit from. According to Chairwoman E. Morgan, it's better alternative than medication. A famous artist, Jackson Pollock, is an example of how unrestrained self-expression of simply dripping paints on the canvas can help access unconscious mind and express inner thoughts within a safe and creative environment. Unfortunately, art therapy is still considered a young and growing discipline, and therefore it has to strengthen its positions.
You can't deliver as arts interventions are needed. What you're brilliant at is one-to-one, and perhaps for smaller groups of people with a very, very distinct clinical need where you have to have a high degree of training. Actually, arts professionals represent an enormous extra workforce for the NHS, above and beyond those people that they already have.
Arts and Humanities Research Council presented a cultural value project which is another great example of arts improving the well-being of those involved in it, and that art teaches people coping mechanisms against various life struggles. BAT presents some really good feedbacks from the clients to support it. Next question explores geographic imbalance in favor of London. The dispute over London's larger share in comparison to other English regions is well presented in statistics of NPO. Darren Henley, Chief Executive from Arts Council, reassured about the plans to increase funding outside London, stating that the policy regarding this will be changed by directing more money outside London by 2018-2019. There is no one opinion how to manage the funding. One of the MPs from House of Commons Culture, Media and Sport points out that it's easier for London to find philanthropes or donors for their projects, contrary to the areas outside the capital, including the funding from national lottery funds. The examination of Liz Hill argues further over the framework presented by Art Council, referring to great arts and culture for everyone. She disputes the obvious lack of transparency when it comes to the funding. Next question highlights the role of Brexit. Sir Nicholas Serota, newly appointed chairman of Arts Council, has announced the plans for 2015-2018 to invest £1.1 billion of public money and about 630 million national lottery cash in the arts and culture sector. The most pressing issues it faces are a lack of diversity and imbalance between spending in London and the regions, plus what the consequences of Brexit will be on the sector, which is overwhelmingly wanted to remain in European Union. It is a complex issue, and Brexit factor complicates things even more. Creative Industries Federation disputes further by raising concerns over losing skilled workers who were filling the gaps in the workforce. It's worth noting the government stated that the situation will remain the same until Britain officially leaves the EU. However, Melissa King, an art psychotherapist, in her interview contradicts that.
Unfortunately, that's already happening. At the recent BAT Council meeting, lots of European funders are not even letting us in the door now because they think that we're going to be leaving Europe. So they're thinking, no point in the UK applying for this because they might leave the EU halfway through. So it's already happening, even though we haven't left Europe yet, and hopefully we won't, but we never know. Lots of European funders and lots of European organisations are not even letting us apply for things now. So it's already having a negative impact on things that people have relied upon. So lots the amount of things that we've had through European funding is immense in this country, and a lot of those things won't be happening.
Tessa Daly wrote, "Art therapists have adapted working patterns, some in more generic roles, with shorter terms outpatient treatment, some into outreach work, visiting homes and communities where necessary." BAT published the guidelines for art therapists working as volunteers. Commenting the guidelines, Melissa King outlined the alternative.
Call it a pilot, so then you can be very boundaried within that space and say to the organisation, I'm prepared to run a pilot art therapy scheme, and this will be for 6 weeks or 10 weeks or 12 weeks, and this will be the amount of sessions I can do, and then after that time we can reflect on it and see whether that's something that you'd like to consider in the future. If they want to take therapist doesn't feel that they're being taken advantage of indefinitely, move on to the next organisation. A lot of the time employers will doing that until somebody offers you a job, because they're thinking, I'm getting art therapy, can stay and tick the boxes of the years, having a therapist. I'm not paying them. They're not professional. They're having to pay for their own supervision. So we were told, and the therapist can feel told, I want to work doing art therapy. I want a service.
The last topic will present Articulate. The concerns were raised by Kaylee Hughes in her article Arts Funding Cuts and the Problem with Working for Exposure. She points out that working for free affects the perception of the artist and his work. The termination of funding that arts face in the USA threatens to the existence of many forms of arts, including art therapy. The financial crisis indicates a desperate need to survive. In response to the current situation, Mary Rose Brady from BAT presented to the students a special program Articulate, designed to help and support teachers and their assistants, teaching them skills aimed for therapeutic interventions. These special measures will integrate art therapy into schools of England. Final chapter, conclusion. From all this evidence, it is clear that it is essential to convince the government address the problem of funding, force the matter into spotlight by all means necessary, and show the impact arts do to people. Moreover, teach people to think creatively and seek funding from other sources as well. It is worth noting that raising awareness shifts our perception and lets our voices to be heard by the publics, and not only to make the issue visible, but more importantly, to show a solution. The establishment of early intervention could be a perfect means to save money and form the coping mechanisms, build self-confidence, and thus improve the quality of life. The dispute over fair distribution of funding is questioned, but how to measure that? Different sectors raise their need for financial aid. So how to survive when there is not enough funding? I believe desperate times require desperate measures, such as the new model Articulate designed by BAT. And finally, arts are extremely rewarding to everybody, whether it is seen in the museum or produced personally.